Chapter 1. Tell your brain you're doing it, not asking. You've got to start telling your brain what's happening. Not asking, not suggesting, not waiting for approval. You decide, you declare, and you move. That's the first step to real strength. Most people spend their whole life negotiating with their mind, asking if they feel like doing the thing they already know they need to do. And that's why they stay stuck. Because if you keep asking your brain for permission to do hard things, it will almost always say no. Your brain loves comfort. It's built for survival, not success. It wants you to stay safe, relaxed, and unchanged. It tries to protect you from anything uncomfortable, but that protection is the same wall that keeps you small. The truth is, your brain isn't the boss unless you let it be. You're the one in charge. You're the one who decides what happens next. The moment you stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and start saying, "I'm doing it," everything changes. Because once you remove the option of negotiation, you remove the excuses that follow it. You remove the room for hesitation, for doubt, for fear to grow. You stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect time, the perfect motivation. You start acting because it's right, not because it feels right. So many people keep waiting to feel ready. They think they'll take action once the fear is gone, once motivation shows up, once life gets easier. But here's the truth. You're never going to feel ready. And that's not a problem. That's just how the mind works. It's designed to protect you, not to push you. So if you want to grow, you've got to stop waiting for readiness and start training your brain to move without it. When your alarm goes off and that little voice says, 5 more minutes, that's your moment. That's where change begins. You don't ask if you feel like it. You tell yourself, "I'm getting up now." When it's time to work out and your body feels heavy, you don't wait for inspiration. You remind yourself, "I said I would." When there's a project to start, you don't wait until it feels perfect. You begin because nothing gets better by waiting. This is the discipline of decision. Discipline isn't a feeling, it's a practice. It's a muscle that grows every time you act without waiting for your emotions to agree. It's not built on motivation, it's built on momentum. Every time you take action before you feel like it, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching it that you lead, not your moods. At first, it's uncomfortable. You'll feel resistance. You'll hear that voice that says, "Maybe later." But later never comes. Later is the language of people who never move. If you want to change, you've got to learn to talk back to that voice. You've got to say, "No, not later, now." Because the longer you wait, the heavier the moment gets. You don't need to feel confident to take action. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after. You act first, and your confidence grows from seeing yourself follow through. You don't need to feel inspired. You don't need the right song, the right time, or the right mood. You just need to move. Because once you move, everything changes. When you act without asking your brain for permission, something powerful happens. You start building trust with yourself. You show your brain that you're reliable, that when you say you'll do something, it gets done. Over time, that trust becomes your new identity. You stop fighting yourself. You stop second-guessing. You start leading your own mind. That's how strong people are built. Not through talent, not through luck, but through thousands of small decisions made without negotiation. They wake up when it's hard. They work when it's uncomfortable. They do it not because it's fun, but because they decided they would. And that decision becomes power. You can't wait for discipline to appear. You create it by removing the debate. Every time you ask, "Should I?" you're giving your weakness a vote. Stop asking. Start commanding. Tell your brain, "We're doing this." When you do that long enough, your brain stops fighting you and starts following your lead. It won't happen overnight. You'll still hear that old voice trying to pull you back to comfort. But the more you practice leading, the quieter it gets. One day you'll wake up and realize the hesitation isn't as strong anymore. The delay doesn't last as long. You just move, because that's who you've become. You'll stop fearing hard things. You'll start craving them. Because the hard things are where you grow, where you separate from the version of yourself that used to quit. You'll begin to see discomfort not as a warning, but as a signal. Every time you feel resistance, that's your cue. Not to stop, but to go. That's where progress lives. Growth never happens inside comfort. It happens in the moments you act when your mind screams no. That's the moment that rewires you. That's the moment you build real power. Every time you say, "I'm not asking, I'm doing," you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than your feelings. So the next time your brain says, "I don't want to," you answer, "We're doing it anyway." You stop giving your mind the chance to vote against your future. You don't wait. You don't negotiate. You move. You act. You lead. Because the moment you stop asking for permission, you take back control. That's how transformation begins. One decision at a time. Not by waiting for easy days, not by chasing comfort, but by standing firm in your choice to move forward no matter how you feel. You decide, you act, you follow through. That's the mindset that changes everything. Chapter 2. Stand up the moment your mind says, wait. The second your mind says, wait, that's your cue to move. That tiny pause, that whisper that says, not yet. That's not logic. That's resistance. And resistance always shows up right before growth. The difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck is simple. One moves through that hesitation, the other obeys it. When your brain says, wait, it's not trying to ruin your day. It's doing what it's wired to do. Protect you from discomfort. But what your brain calls safety, your potential calls a cage. Every time you listen to that quiet delay, you reinforce weakness. You teach your mind that hesitation is allowed. You give it power. You make it louder. You know that moment. When you tell yourself you'll start in 5 minutes, or after this one video, or tomorrow morning. That's the trap. Because 5 minutes becomes an hour becomes a day, and before you know it, you've lost momentum. Every time you let that wait win, you shrink the muscle of decision. You teach your brain that feelings decide the schedule. But if you stand up in that exact moment, the very second hesitation shows its face, you break the pattern. You send a signal to your brain that you lead, not fear. That's how real change begins. Not in grand decisions, but in those tiny, uncomfortable moments where you move anyway. The longer you sit in hesitation, the heavier it gets. That's not in your imagination. Your brain literally starts building excuses, reasons that sound believable, stories that sound responsible, all of them designed to make you not act. It'll tell you you're tired. It'll tell you you'll do better later. It'll tell you you just need a break. But every second you wait, the lie grows stronger. Action is the cure. Not thought, not analysis, not another plan. Action. You don't need more time. You don't need the perfect strategy. You need to move. The faster you move after the thought appears, the more you train your brain to obey your commands instead of its fears. You become what you practice. If you practice delay, you'll get better at delaying. If you practice decisive action, you'll get faster, sharper, stronger. That's how confidence is built. Not through hype, but through repetition. You start trusting yourself because you see yourself act without hesitation. Everyone hesitates. Everyone feels that split second of not now, but the difference between average and exceptional is what happens next. The average person sits in the pause. The exceptional person breaks it, and it doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's just standing up. Sometimes it's sending the message you've been avoiding. Sometimes it's walking out the door instead of talking yourself out of it. Those moments look small from the outside, but inside they're massive. Because each one sends a message to your brain. We don't wait. You can't afford to live in hesitation. Every delay drains energy and confidence. You don't rise in life by waiting to feel ready. You rise by acting before readiness arrives. You've got to build the habit of immediate movement. You've got to train yourself to recognize hesitation for what it is, weakness in disguise. The mind will always try to protect you from effort. It will always try to slow you down, but if you can move while it's still saying, wait, you win the battle. That's where strength begins, in those few seconds between thought and action. When your brain says, not now, that's your green light. You move, you stand, you start. No debate, no delay. Because once you move, everything changes. The body gets involved. The brain catches up. momentum takes over. But that only happens when you move first. Think about it. Every goal you've ever reached started with one motion, the decision to act. And every dream that's still waiting started with a delay. The more you move, the less time you give doubt to grow. The less time you spend thinking, the more time you spend doing. That's how people win, by cutting the time between thought and action down to zero. Don't listen to the voice that says, just give it a minute. That minute is poison. That minute becomes an hour, that hour becomes a habit, that habit becomes who you are. You've got to break it the moment it starts. You do that by standing up, by taking one step, by refusing to let hesitation make the rules. And yes, it'll feel uncomfortable. Your mind will fight back. It'll say, you're pushing too hard, but you're not. You're pushing through. You're breaking the pattern that's kept you stuck. You're training your brain to follow through even when it's hard. This isn't about being reckless. It's about being decisive. You're not acting out of impulse. You're acting out of strength, because you already know what needs to be done. The hesitation isn't wisdom, it's fear. And you don't take orders from fear anymore. The people who rise fastest aren't the ones who wait for inspiration. They're the ones who act before comfort returns. They've built a system where hesitation gets no vote. They don't tolerate delay because they understand the cost of it. Every later robs you of momentum, of belief, of progress. So the next time you feel that urge to wait, move. Don't think. Don't argue. Just move. Walk into action while your mind is still catching up. That single decision will change everything. Because once your brain learns that hesitation doesn't work on you anymore, it stops wasting time trying. It starts cooperating. It starts delivering energy instead of excuses. You become faster, clearer, more certain. That's when life opens up. Because you've removed the barrier that keeps most people stuck, the pause. You've turned movement into your natural response. You've trained yourself to act instead of analyze. And when you live that way, momentum never leaves you. So from now on, make it your rule. The moment your brain says, wait, you move. No debate, no delay, no hesitation. That's how you build power. That's how you build self-respect. That's how you take control of your life, one instant action at a time. Chapter 3. Decide now and don't open any negotiation. The moment you hesitate, you lose ground. The second you start debating your own decisions, you invite weakness in. Strong people don't make the same choice 10 times. They make it once, and they close the door behind it. No discussion, no rethinking. No, maybe later. They decide, and that's it. Most people don't fail because they can't decide. They fail because they don't stick with the decisions they make. They reopen them. They let emotions vote. They change their minds every time the road feels rough. And every time they do, they chip away at their own strength. You can't keep negotiating with yourself and expect to grow stronger. You can't keep asking, should I still do this? Once you've already said yes, the answer was yes. Stay with it. Finish it. That's how progress is made. Not by being perfect, but by refusing to back out. Your brain will always look for exits. It loves escape routes. It loves loopholes. The moment things get uncomfortable, it starts searching for reasons to slow down, reasons to delay, reasons to quit. That's its job, to protect you from effort. But your job is to protect your direction. If you leave the door open, even a crack, your brain will find a way out. It'll whisper excuses that sound responsible. You're tired. It's not the right time. You can always start again later. That's the trap. That's the moment you have to say, no, the decision's made. You don't need to feel ready to follow through. You just need to stop negotiating, because negotiation kills commitment. You can't have both. The people who grow, who achieve, who lead, they don't reopen their decisions every time life gets hard. They trust their word. They honor it. When you make a decision, lock it in. Treat it as final, like there's no other option, like the bridge behind you is gone. That's where clarity lives. That's where power lives. Not in constant reconsideration, but in commitment. The truth is, most people don't trust their own choices. They think they need more time, more advice, more signs, more reassurance. But you don't need more time. You need more trust. You need to believe that the person who made the decision knew what they were doing. And that person was you. Every time you reopen a decision, you weaken it. You water it down. You give your emotions authority they don't deserve. You've got to learn to shut that down fast. You've got to tell your brain, we're not debating this. Because that's where mental freedom begins. When you stop giving energy to questions that were already answered. You can't move forward if you're always circling back. You can't reach new levels if you keep rethinking whether you belong there. At some point, you have to stand firm. You have to decide that your decisions are not suggestions. They're commands. That's how discipline is built. Not by getting everything right, but by following through on what you said, even when your feelings change. Feelings are temporary. Standards are not. The strongest people you know aren't stronger because they feel more confident. They're stronger because they don't allow feelings to renegotiate their choices. They treat their commitments like law. Once they say it, it's done. You've got to stop needing constant reassurance. Stop checking how you feel before you act. Stop comparing your pace to others. Your power comes from consistency, not comfort. Every time you stick to a decision without reopening it, you build something inside yourself. A quiet certainty, a deeper trust. That trust turns into momentum. That momentum turns into results. And results turn into belief. You start to see yourself differently. You start to carry yourself with confidence. Not because things are easy, but because you know you'll follow through no matter what. That's what real integrity looks like. Doing what you said you would do long after the mood you made the promise in has passed. It's not flashy. It's not loud, but it's unbreakable. Every time you decide and act without hesitation, you send a message to yourself, I can count on me. And that message is worth more than motivation. Motivation fades. Belief lasts. You want to feel unstoppable? Then stop opening negotiations with your own excuses. Stop going back to the table every time doubt knocks. Doubt's job is to show up. Your job is to ignore it. When you say you'll do it, do it. When you set the goal, chase it. When you commit to the plan, finish it. Not because it's easy, not because it feels good, but because you decided, and that's reason enough. You won't always feel like it. That's normal. Discipline isn't about feeling like it. It's about leading yourself through it. There will be days when your mind screams for comfort, when you question why you even started. That's when this principle matters most. Remind yourself, this decision is made. Not up for review. Not waiting on motivation. Done. You said yes, now prove it. Every time you hold your line, you get stronger. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you raise your standard. And one day, that becomes who you are. Someone who doesn't flinch when it's hard. Someone who doesn't pause when it's heavy. Someone who doesn't quit just because it's inconvenient. That kind of strength isn't talent. It's training. You build it every time you shut down the internal debate and move anyway. So make your next decision like it's final. Say it once and mean it. Don't come back to it. Don't check on it. Don't water it down. You chose it. You act on it. You finish it. That's how leaders are made. That's how results stack up. One strong decision at a time. You don't need more information. You don't need another push. You need to decide. And stop reopening what's already closed. Because every time you reopen the conversation, you give weakness a chance to speak. And if you give it a voice long enough, it'll start making the rules. So close the door. Lock it. Throw away the key. You don't go back. You don't second guess. You don't wait for perfect timing. You move, you finish, you grow. That's how you build strength that lasts. That's how you turn potential into progress. That's how you build a life that moves forward. No negotiation, no delay, no retreat. Decide once. Follow through. Never reopen. That's how you win. Chapter 4. Feel the resistance and walk into it. Anyway, most people think resistance means stop. They feel pressure, they feel discomfort, and they take it as a sign that something's wrong. But the truth is, resistance is proof that you're moving toward something that matters. It's not a wall. It's a signal. It's your brain saying, we're leaving the comfort zone. And that's exactly where growth begins. Resistance doesn't mean turn back. It means keep going. It's the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. And the only way to close that gap is to walk straight into what you've been avoiding. Your brain is wired to protect you, not to evolve you. It doesn't want you to stretch. It doesn't want you to risk failing. So every time you try to step forward, it sends tension, fear, and hesitation to slow you down. It whispers, "Take it easy. You can do it later. You're not ready yet." But none of those thoughts are truth. They're defense mechanisms. They're mental alarms trying to keep you safe. You've got to stop treating those alarms like stop signs. They're not danger. They're direction. Every time you feel that internal resistance, that pull to delay, that weight in your chest, that's your compass pointing you straight toward growth. You can't wait for resistance to disappear. It won't. It's supposed to show up. It's part of the process. It's the test that decides who's serious and who's only interested. The ones who move anyway. Those are the ones who grow. The people who reach the next level aren't the ones who wait for fear to fade. They're the ones who act while fear is screaming. They've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement in spite of it. When you start walking into resistance, something incredible happens. You realize it's not as powerful as it pretends to be. It's loud, it's uncomfortable, but it's hollow. The second you take action, its power starts to crumble. You see that the fear you built in your head was always bigger than the challenge itself. That's how confidence is built. Not by waiting to feel fearless, but by proving you can move while afraid. Every time you do, you teach your brain a new truth. This feeling doesn't control me. The first time you push through resistance, it feels like climbing a mountain. The second time, it feels like a hill. The third time, it feels like a step. Not because it's easier, because you've become stronger, and that's the secret. Resistance doesn't get smaller, you get stronger. Every rep, every challenge, every hard moment rewires your mind. You stop flinching. You stop doubting. You start expecting pressure and walking right through it. You don't need to love it. You don't need to enjoy the grind. You just need to understand that resistance means you're on the right path. Growth isn't supposed to feel smooth. It's supposed to feel uncertain, heavy, awkward, because it's new. Think about it. The first time you lift a weight, it shakes. The first time you run after a long break, it burns. The first time you step into something uncomfortable, it feels wrong. But that's how you grow. By leaning into the shake, not backing away from it. Your resistance knows your weak spots. It knows where to hit. It'll whisper the same excuses over and over. You're too tired. You've done enough. You can try again later. But you already know the truth. Later never comes. You've got to act now. When that moment hits, when your chest tightens and your brain starts negotiating, that's the doorway. That's the point where most people turn around. But you walk through it. You move while the pressure's still there. You take the step before your emotions calm down. That's power. You want to know when transformation happens? It's not during comfort. It's in that exact second when everything in you wants to stop and you move anyway. That's the moment that rewires you. That's the moment that builds the identity of someone who doesn't back down. You'll start to notice something over time. The same pressure that used to scare you starts to excite you. You'll see resistance and think, good. That means I'm growing. You'll stop running from hard things and start chasing them. Because resistance becomes proof that you're on the edge of something new. Every time you push through, you gain self-respect. Not because it was easy, but because you did it anyway. That's how real confidence forms, through repetition in the face of resistance. When you start walking into pressure instead of backing away, you become unstoppable. Because now, nothing surprises you. You expect resistance. You recognize it. You respect it. But you don't obey it. There's freedom in that. You stop wasting energy trying to avoid discomfort. You stop waiting for easy days. You stop hoping to feel ready. You realize that the goal was never to eliminate resistance. The goal was to learn to act through it. Every challenge in your life right now has one thing in common. Resistance is standing in front of it. You can either fight the feeling and stay still, or walk through it and grow stronger. The discomfort won't last, but the pride of pushing through it will. So when your body tenses up, when your mind screams, stop, when fear says, not now, that's your moment. Don't freeze. Don't retreat. Don't wait for comfort. Step forward. Do the thing. Make the call. Lift the weight. Start the work. Whatever the resistance is trying to block, that's exactly where you need to go. You're not here to live soft. You're not here to coast through life untouched by pressure. You're here to rise, to lead, to become someone who acts in the face of resistance, not in the absence of it. So the next time it shows up, and it will, remember this: resistance is not your enemy. It's your signal. It's your invitation to grow. Feel it, acknowledge it, then move through it. Because on the other side of that resistance is strength, clarity, and freedom. You don't get there by waiting. You get there by walking straight into it. Every time. That's how growth happens. That's how you build a mind that doesn't fold. That's how you become unstoppable. So don't run from the pressure. Don't avoid the tension. Don't fight the feeling. Walk straight into it, because that's where your future lives. Chapter 5. Drag your focus back. Every time it drifts, focus isn't something you find once and keep forever. It's something you fight for over and over again. Every day, your attention will drift. Your mind will wander. Your energy will scatter. That's not failure. That's the game. The real strength comes from how fast you bring it back. Everyone gets distracted. Everyone loses focus. The difference between those who win and those who stay stuck is simple. Winners return faster. They don't wait for the perfect mood. They don't drown in guilt. They notice they drifted, and they come back immediately. You've got to stop expecting focus to feel easy. It's not supposed to. Your brain loves novelty. It loves comfort, scrolling, noise, anything that gives a quick hit of dopamine. Focus, on the other hand, demands effort. It demands discipline. It demands that you stay with one thing longer than your emotions want to. That's why dragging your focus back is a skill, a muscle, something you train by catching yourself and returning again and again, no matter how many times it takes. Distraction will always whisper. It'll tell you to check your phone. It'll tell you to take a quick break. It'll say, you'll come back in a minute, but you rarely do, because distraction doesn't ask for much. It just asks for your attention. And once it has it, it keeps it. You've got to get good at noticing the moment it starts. The moment your thoughts drift away from what matters. The instant you start rationalizing a detour. That's the moment to act. Don't think. Don't judge. Just pull your focus back. That simple act, the return, is what builds mental toughness. Because every time you do it, you're proving that your mind works for you, not the other way around. Most people think focus means never breaking concentration, but that's not true. Focus means breaking and returning, over and over again. It's about recovery, not perfection. You can't avoid distraction, but you can shorten the distance between losing focus and getting it back. That's mastery. That's where productivity lives. When your attention drifts, don't call yourself lazy. Don't spiral into frustration. Just return, quietly, firmly, without emotion. That's the discipline that separates professionals from amateurs, because amateurs wait to feel ready again. Professionals just come back. You've got to train yourself to treat focus like a commitment, not a feeling. You don't need inspiration to concentrate. You need intention. Every time your mind wanders, bring it back. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. That repetition is the work. And yes, it's boring. It's repetitive. It doesn't feel rewarding right away. But every time you drag your focus back, you're building something powerful. Self-command. The ability to lead your own attention no matter what's happening around you. You can't build anything meaningful with a scattered mind. Scattered focus leads to scattered results. You rise in life by being fully present with what matters most. When you work, work. When you train, train. When you rest, rest. Be all in. Most people are never fully in one place. Their body's doing one thing while their mind's somewhere else. That's why progress feels so slow, because they're never truly engaged. You can't grow like that. You've got to bring all of you to the moment. That's what sharpens your mind. That's what creates flow. That's what builds consistency. And when your mind drifts, because it will, don't waste energy being frustrated. Just return. The faster you return, the stronger you get. This is what separates high performers from everyone else. The ability to recover their focus instantly. Not perfectly, instantly. They don't let one distraction ruin the whole day. They don't say, "I'll start again tomorrow." They reset now. They pull their attention back and keep moving. That's how you build unstoppable momentum. Your focus will break 1,000 times. That's okay. What matters is how many times you bring it back. That's the real scorecard. Don't chase perfect focus. Chase return speed. The faster you come back, the more in control you become. The more in control you are, the more progress you make. This is the discipline no one sees. The quiet grind of pulling yourself back to the task, the goal, the mission, over and over, even when you're tired, distracted, or unmotivated. That's the kind of discipline that builds a powerful mind. Because every time you drag your focus back, you're saying to yourself, "I lead." You're showing your brain that distractions don't decide when you stop. You do. There will be days when you drift all the time. You'll feel scattered, messy, unproductive. That's not weakness. That's part of the process. The win isn't in never drifting. It's in never giving up on returning. You can always reset. You can always start again. You can always bring your mind back home. And every time you do, it gets easier to do it again. Focus isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. It's about returning no matter how far you've gone off track. It's about remembering what matters and coming back to it until it becomes your default mode. That's what mentally strong people do. They don't let a bad hour turn into a bad day. They don't let one distraction derail their momentum. They course correct fast, and when you live that way, you stop fearing distraction. You stop labeling yourself as unfocused or lazy. You realize that focus is something you build. You realize you're training your brain every time you catch it drifting. So the next time your mind starts to wander, don't panic. Don't restart tomorrow. Bring it back. Again, and again, and again. Because that repetition is where mastery lives. That repetition is what creates clarity. That repetition is how you build focus that doesn't break under pressure. You won't always feel locked in. You won't always feel sharp. But you can always return. That's what discipline looks like. Not perfection, but persistence. You drag your focus back every time it drifts. You don't wait. You don't judge. You just return. That's how you build power. That's how you build progress. That's how you build a mind that stays locked on what matters, no matter what tries to pull it away. Chapter 6. Do the task, even when you hate it. You're not always going to love the work. You're not always going to feel inspired. There will be days when everything in you says, "I don't want to do this." And those days, those exact days, are the ones that matter the most. Anybody can work hard when it's fun. Anybody can show up when it's easy, but the ones who separate from the crowd are the ones who do it when they hate it. The ones who move through the boredom, the frustration, the exhaustion, not because they feel like it, but because they said they would. You're not supposed to love every task. You're supposed to respect it. Respect the process enough to show up anyway. Because doing the work when you hate it isn't weakness. It's mastery. That's the truth no one likes to hear. The road to progress isn't built on motivation. It's built on consistency through resistance. The people you admire. The ones who stay disciplined, who build success that lasts. They're not driven by passion every day. They're driven by standards. Standards don't care about your feelings. Standards don't ask for mood checks. Standards are about doing what you said you would do, no matter what's happening inside your head. You've got to stop chasing the feeling of wanting to do the work. That feeling will abandon you the moment things get uncomfortable. You've got to chase the result. You've got to learn to do the task because it's required, not because it's enjoyable. There's a reason discipline feels cold. It doesn't care about emotion. It's not there to comfort you. It's there to shape you. And shaping hurts. Growth hurts. But it's the kind of pain that builds strength. When you hate the task, that's your cue. That's the test. That's the voice of your limits showing up, asking if you're serious. And when you do it anyway, when you show up without passion, without excitement, without a smile, You're proving that your actions are stronger than your moods. That's the kind of strength that doesn't fade. Motivation burns fast. Passion comes and goes. But discipline, the ability to act while hating every second of it, that's permanent power. You'll never hear your mind cheering you on in those moments. It'll tell you to rest. It'll tell you to skip today. It'll tell you that you'll come back stronger tomorrow. But tomorrow doesn't build strength. Today does. Today is where the real work happens. In silence, without applause, without excitement. Every time you push through when it's hard, you earn something far more valuable than comfort. Self-respect. You start to trust yourself. You start to see that your word actually means something. That when you say you'll do it, you do it, even when you hate it. That's when you start to become dangerous. Because now feelings don't decide your day, you do. You stop depending on the weather of your emotions and start living by the climate of your discipline. You've got to remind yourself, doing the task isn't about feeling good. It's about becoming good. The pain of discipline always pays off. The pleasure of skipping it never does. Think about the times you quit early, the days you gave yourself permission to rest when you hadn't earned it. Did it ever make you proud? Probably not. But the times you pushed through, the times you worked when you didn't want to, those are the moments that built your confidence. The work you do when you hate it counts the most because that's when it's pure. No hype, no excitement, no easy fuel, just commitment. That's what separates amateurs from professionals. Amateurs wait for the right conditions. Professionals create progress in any condition. There's no such thing as, I'll do it when I feel better. There's only, I'll do it. Feelings are temporary. Regret isn't. When you do the task even when you hate it, you're training your brain to obey commitment instead of comfort. You're teaching yourself that emotions are not instructions. They're background noise. You've got to show up in the storm the same way you do in the sunshine. Because the goal doesn't care how you feel. The result doesn't ask if you're tired. The world doesn't pause while you recover motivation. Life keeps moving, and so should you. You might not see results immediately. You might not feel proud right away. But every single time you act, in spite of how you feel, you're adding another layer to your strength. You're stacking invisible wins that no one sees, but they add up. And one day when the excitement fades, when everyone else quits, you'll still be there. Still standing. Still doing the work. Because that's who you've become. Someone who does what's required, not what's convenient. That's freedom. Not being controlled by moods, not being swayed by comfort. Freedom is doing what must be done, no matter how you feel about it. So when that voice in your head starts complaining, when it says, I hate this, smile. Because that's your cue. That's the sign you're in the right place. That's your opportunity to prove who's in charge, you or your excuses. You can hate the task and still do it. You can feel empty and still move. You can dislike every second and still finish strong. That's the difference between trying and becoming, because one day, the task you once hated becomes routine. The pain becomes power. The thing that used to break you becomes the thing that builds you. So stop waiting to love the process. Stop expecting it to feel easy. Show up, do the work. Even when you hate it, especially when you hate it, that's where discipline is forged. That's where growth is earned. That's where you become unstoppable. Chapter 7, Shut Down Comfort Before It Takes the Lead. Comfort is sneaky. It doesn't show up loud. It doesn't scream, stop growing! It whispers, you deserve a break. You've done enough. Take it easy. You've earned it. And that's how it wins. Not with force, but with softness. Comfort doesn't destroy you all at once. It erodes you slowly. It convinces you to take one small step back, then another. And before you know it, the fire you built turns into smoke. You start lowering your standards just a little. You start saying tomorrow a little more. You start choosing easy over right. And you call it balance. That's how comfort takes the lead. Quietly, invisibly, with your permission. You've got to see it coming. You've got to stay alert, because the second comfort starts running the show, progress stops. And when progress stops, frustration follows. You start wondering why things feel off, why you're losing energy. why your confidence is fading. But it's not mystery. It's comfort taking control. The truth is, comfort never stays small. It grows. The moment you give it an inch, it demands a mile. It starts showing up in everything, your habits, your decisions, your mindset. It infects discipline. It steals urgency. And once it's in charge, it'll make you believe this slower, softer version of you is normal. You've got to kill that lie fast. Because comfort is not normal. Comfort is decay. Growth lives on the edge of discomfort. Always. The second you get comfortable, you stop evolving. That's why you've got to build a habit of catching comfort the instant it shows up. You know that feeling when you start making excuses that sound reasonable. When you say, I'll do it after I rest a bit, or I'll pick it up next week when I'm more motivated. That's not logic. That's comfort, dressed up as self-care. You've got to learn the difference between recovery and retreat. Recovery is strategic. It builds strength. Retreat is emotional. It protects weakness. Know which one you're choosing. Comfort will always try to lead. It wants to sit in the driver's seat of your life. And if you're not paying attention, it will. That's why strong people don't wait until comfort takes over. They shut it down early. You've got to build the reflex. The second your mind starts saying, you've done enough, that's when you push a little more. When it says, relax, it's not urgent, that's when you double down. Because if you let comfort start setting the pace, you're already losing ground. The mind loves patterns. It wants to repeat what feels familiar. So if you let comfort win today, it gets easier for it to win tomorrow. But the same rule works the other way, too. If you fight it today, it gets weaker tomorrow. Every time you act against comfort, you build control. You teach your brain that you lead, not your cravings. That's how strength compounds. That's how toughness becomes your default. The truth is, comfort isn't the enemy of pain. It's the enemy of purpose. Because comfort kills momentum, and momentum is what keeps you alive inside. When you're too comfortable, you stop chasing. You stop pushing. You start protecting what you have instead of building what's next. And that's how potential dies. Slowly, quietly, while you convince yourself everything's fine. You've got to stay uncomfortable enough to grow. That doesn't mean suffering for no reason. It means living with intensity. It means doing one more rep when you want to stop, making one more call when your energy's gone, writing one more page when your mind's tired. That's how you keep control. That's how you remind comfort it doesn't run your life. Comfort will always try to sound kind. It'll say, don't be so hard on yourself. It'll pretend it's protecting you, but what it's really doing is trapping you. Keeping you just safe enough to stop growing, just calm enough to stop chasing, just distracted enough to forget what you're capable of. You've got to get ruthless with it. The same way you'd swat a fly before it lands on your food. Stop comfort before it settles in your mind. Because once it settles, it spreads. The moment you start saying good enough is the moment you stop aiming for greatness. And once you stop aiming high, everything else starts to shrink too. Your habits, your goals, your standards. Comfort is a slow fade. It's not dramatic. It's not obvious. It's a quiet slide from sharp to soft. And if you're not awake, you won't even notice it happening. That's why discipline matters. Discipline is your alarm system. It's what wakes you up before comfort puts you to sleep. Every morning you have a choice. You can feed comfort, or you can feed growth. You can choose the pillow or the purpose. You can choose easy or progress. But you can't have both. You can't build strength in comfort. You can't build hunger while living soft. You can't live at full power while giving half effort. And the scary part? Comfort feels good. That's why it's dangerous. Because comfort convinces you that feeling good means doing good. But that's not true. The things that feel good in the moment often steal from your future. So start measuring your choices differently. Don't ask, does this feel good right now? Ask, will this make me proud later? That's how you stay ahead of comfort, by thinking beyond the moment. The people who rise, the ones who keep evolving, they have one thing in common. They never let comfort lead for long. The second they feel it creeping in, they change the pace. They raise the bar. They put pressure back on themselves, not because they hate rest, but because they love progress more. So don't wait until comfort has stolen your drive. Catch it early. Kill it quick. When you feel that softness trying to settle, stand up, move, do something hard. Do something that reminds your brain who's in charge. You'll never eliminate comfort completely, but you can make sure it never takes the lead again. You lead. Comfort follows. Always. Because the moment comfort starts leading your life, your potential starts dying. But when you lead, even through pressure, even through pain, that's when you become unstoppable. Chapter 8. Catch yourself thinking soft and interrupt. Fast, soft thoughts are silent killers. They don't announce themselves. They don't yell, "I'm weakness." They come disguised as kindness, logic, or reason. They sound like, "Take it easy. You've done enough for today. It's okay to skip once." And that's how they win. Not through confrontation, but through comfort. Thinking soft is the beginning of the slide. It's that subtle shift from hunger to hesitation. It's when you start rationalizing mediocrity instead of demanding greatness. And if you don't catch it fast, it grows roots. It becomes your new normal. Soft thoughts are comfortable lies. They don't feel dangerous because they sound caring. They tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear. They'll say, "Rest today, you deserve it." They'll say, "You've worked hard." No one would blame you for stopping. But every time you believe them, your edge dulls. You've got to build awareness sharp enough to catch those thoughts the moment they show up. You've got to train your mind to recognize softness like a poison. Because that's what it is, mental poison disguised as peace. The second you notice it, you interrupt it. Immediately. No debate. No reasoning. You catch it and you cut it off. This is where most people fail. Not because they don't have goals, but because they don't catch the drift. They let soft thoughts sit. They let them linger thinking they're harmless. But soft thoughts multiply. They start small. "I'll start later. I'll just take one day off." Then before you know it, your drive's gone. You can't negotiate with softness. You can't make peace with it. You have to attack it. You have to develop the discipline to spot it instantly and replace it with power. When you hear your mind say, "Maybe I'll skip it today," that's your trigger. Don't think, move. Stand up, act, do something hard right then. Because the faster you interrupt softness, the less it can spread. Your brain works like muscle memory. If you give softness time, it builds pathways. It becomes your default reaction. But if you interrupt it fast, your brain learns that weakness doesn't win here. That's how you become mentally unshakable, by cutting softness at the source. Think about it. The strongest people aren't immune to soft thoughts. They just don't let them breathe. They feel the same temptations you do. They hear the same lazy voice, but they kill it faster. They don't feed it. They don't give it space. Softness grows in silence. The longer you sit with it, the louder it gets. That's why you've got to speak back. Out loud if you have to. Interrupt the thought before it becomes a decision. You can't afford to think soft in a world that demands strength. Life doesn't slow down because you're tired. The world doesn't pause because you lost focus. You've got to stay sharp enough to catch yourself, because no one else will. It's not about being harsh. It's about being honest. You can't build greatness by lying to yourself. You can't rise by excusing weakness. Growth starts the moment you stop protecting your comfort and start protecting your potential. Every soft thought is a test, a check-in, a quiet moment where your mind asks, "Are we still serious?" And your answer has to be movement. Every time. No hesitation. No waiting, just action. When you act immediately, you break the pattern. You stop your brain from spiraling into justification. You cut the oxygen off before the fire spreads. And the beauty of it? The more you do it, the easier it gets. You start catching softness faster. You start recognizing the tone. You start laughing at it. Because you know exactly what it's trying to do. Slow you down. You've got to train your self-awareness like a fighter. Stay light on your feet. Stay ready. The moment you sense your thoughts softening, hit back with something firm. A reminder. A command. A small action. Soft thought. "I'll do it later." Hard interruption. "No. I'll do it now." Soft thought. I'm too tired. Hard interruption. I've done tired before, and we're moving. Soft thought. I deserve a break. Hard interruption. I'll rest when I earn it. That's how you rewire your brain. By teaching it that softness never gets the final say. Every time you interrupt softness, you strengthen the part of your mind that leads. Every time you let it linger, you strengthen the part that quits. And here's the truth. Thinking soft feels nice right now, but it always feels awful later. Because deep down, you know you gave in. You know you played small. And that disappointment doesn't go away. But when you catch it and interrupt it, you walk away powerful. You walk away proud. You didn't wait for motivation. You created momentum. That's what builds the kind of discipline that doesn't bend under pressure. The kind that can't be swayed by a bad mood, a bad day, or a bad excuse. You've got to live in awareness. Softness won't announce itself. You have to spot it. Every time your mind tries to take the easy way out, call it what it is. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't defend it. Label it. That's weakness. That's comfort. That's not who I am. You're not supposed to be gentle with thoughts that are trying to rob your edge. You don't argue with them. You override them. You lead. Because the moment you start thinking soft, you start moving slow. And the longer you stay slow, the harder it gets to turn momentum back on. So don't let it grow. Interrupt fast. Train yourself to move in opposition to weakness. You'll still have soft days. You'll still have moments where you don't feel like it. But the difference now is awareness. The difference is speed. You'll catch yourself. You'll redirect. You'll recover fast. That's what being mentally strong looks like. Not perfection, but awareness and action. So stay sharp. Stay alert. Watch your thoughts. Because the battle doesn't start in your body. It starts in your mind. Every great life is built by someone who caught themselves thinking soft and interrupted fast. Don't let softness take root. Don't give it time to breathe. See it. Name it. Move against it. That's how you keep your edge. That's how you stay hungry. That's how you stay unbreakable. Chapter 9. Act like quitting is not even an option. Quitting isn't just an action. It's a habit. Once you let it in, even once, it learns the way back. The door stays cracked open, and every time life gets heavy, that voice comes knocking again. You can stop. You've done enough. No one will blame you. That's how most people lose. Not because they're weak, but because they keep quitting early and calling it smart. You've got to decide right now that quitting is not on your list of options. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Because when you remove the option to quit, you free up all the energy you waste debating it. You stop looking for exits and start looking for solutions. When you act like quitting isn't an option, everything changes. Suddenly, you're forced to figure it out. You're forced to adapt, to learn, to get tougher. You stop waiting for it to get easier, and you start getting stronger instead. That's what commitment really means. It's not doing something when it's easy. It's doing it when you'd rather run. It's showing up on the days your mind screams, enough. Because deep down, you already decided, we don't quit here. Quitting might give you relief for a moment, but it steals your power forever. Every time you quit, you tell your brain that your word doesn't matter. You teach yourself that emotions decide outcomes. And once your mind learns that, it'll keep testing you. Over and over again. You can't win like that. You can't build trust with yourself if you keep walking away when it's hard. Strength doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in defiance. It grows when you stare at the pain, feel it fully, and move anyway. You've got to act like there's no exit, like there's no safety net, like there's no backup plan waiting to catch you. Because the moment you give yourself an escape route, your focus splits. Half of you is in the fight. The other half is already preparing to run. If you want to build something that lasts, burn the escape route. Make quitting impossible. When your mind knows there's no way out, it stops wasting energy arguing and starts finding a way through. That's where creativity lives. That's where grit is born. That's where you discover how strong you really are. Every great story you've ever heard has that same moment. The point where everything looks impossible. The pressure's high, the odds are bad. But the hero keeps going, not because it's easy, not because they're fearless, but because quitting never even crossed their mind. That's the mindset you need. No exits, no safety net, no plan B, just forward, always forward. Because when you remove the option to quit, your effort changes, your focus sharpens. You work differently when you know there's no way out. You stop holding back. You stop saving energy just in case. You go all in. And that's when real breakthroughs happen. The truth is, you'll want to quit. Everyone does. You'll feel tired, frustrated, burned out. You'll question whether it's worth it. You'll wonder if you're wasting time. But that's not the moment to stop. That's the moment to double down. That's the moment that separates those who wish from those who win. Quitting is easy. Anyone can stop. But staying when it hurts, staying when it's messy, staying when it feels impossible, that's where identity is built. That's where you become the kind of person you respect. You'll never respect yourself for quitting. Not once. You might feel relief for a day, but you'll feel regret for years. The only way to protect your self-respect is to finish, to keep going when your emotions beg you to stop. You don't have to love the struggle. You just have to refuse to leave it. Every challenge you face is a test. Will you fold or will you finish? Every time you finish, you build proof. Proof that you can count on you. Proof that you're the kind of person who doesn't back down. That proof is powerful. Because one day, when life throws something even harder at you, you won't panic. You'll remember who you are. You'll remember every moment you could have quit but didn't. You'll remember that you've been here before. And you made it through. That's how resilience is built, not from comfort, but from every moment you kept going when quitting was easier. When you make quitting impossible, you stop wasting time negotiating. You stop spending mental energy on should I stay or should I go. You've already decided. You stay, you fight, you finish, period. And something incredible happens when you live that way. You stop fearing the hard stuff. You stop seeing challenges as threats. You start seeing them as proof of who you've become. Because if quitting isn't an option, failure isn't final. You might fall. You might struggle. You might slow down. But you always get back up, because there's no other choice. That's what makes you unstoppable. That's what separates the ones who make it from the ones who almost did. Most people spend their life halfway in, halfway out, never fully committed, always ready to quit if it gets uncomfortable. Don't be like that. Decide now that you're all in. When you remove the escape hatch, you stop being average. You stop being fragile. You become something solid, someone who finishes no matter what. So the next time your mind says, I can't do this anymore, answer back, watch me. The next time you hear, it's too much, say, then I'll grow more. And when that voice whispers, you could just quit, smile, because that's your reminder that you're right where you're supposed to be, at the edge of growth. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be relentless. You don't need to move fast. You just need to keep moving. Quitting isn't an option. Not because you're fearless, but because you're committed. You've made your choice. You finish what you start. Always. That's how you build grit. That's how you build pride. That's how you build a life that never folds under pressure. Chapter 10. Finish what you start. No matter how you feel, starting is easy. Everyone starts. Everyone feels excited at the beginning. The energy's high, the vision's clear, the goal feels close enough to touch. But the longer you walk the path, the quieter that excitement gets. The weight sets in, the work gets real. And that's where most people vanish. Not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't finish. Finishing is what separates the dreamers from the doers. Anyone can say they want it. Few will stay long enough to earn it. You've got to make finishing a rule, a standard, a non-negotiable part of who you are. Because if you only work when it's fun, you'll never build anything that lasts. Your emotions will lie to you. They'll tell you it's too much, that it's not worth it anymore, that it's fine to walk away. But feelings don't get to make the call, a commitment does. When you start something, your feelings are loud. When you're halfway through, your feelings turn on you. That's where discipline takes over. That's where you look your emotions in the face and say, we finish what we start. Every project, every workout, every promise. the finish line matters. Because every time you finish, you prove something to yourself. I keep my word. And every time you quit early, you send the opposite message. My word bends when it's inconvenient. You can't build strength on broken promises. You can't build self-trust if you keep walking away halfway through the battle. You've got to learn to close the loop, to push through the drag, the boredom, the doubt, and finish. Not because you feel like it, but because that's who you are now. You don't have to love it. You just have to complete it. You don't have to enjoy every step. You just have to cross the line. That's the muscle most people never train. The finisher's muscle. The ability to follow through when it's not exciting anymore. The ability to stay in the fight when no one's watching. Because it's easy to start when there's hype. It's easy to grind when people are cheering. But when it's quiet, when the work feels endless, when you start questioning why you even began, that's the moment that defines you. You've got to understand something. Quitting feels good right now, but it always hurts later. Finishing feels hard right now, but it builds pride that never fades. When you finish, you create proof. And proof is fuel. Proof says, I don't quit. Proof builds confidence that can't be faked. It gives you a history of follow-through, a track record your mind can trust. So when you face the next challenge, you don't doubt yourself. You've got evidence. You finished before and you'll finish again. That's why it's not about speed. It's about completion. It's not about how perfectly you do it. It's about seeing it through. The most dangerous lie you can tell yourself is, it's okay. I'll come back to it later. Because later almost never happens. Later is a graveyard for unfinished goals. If you start it, finish it. Even if it takes longer than you planned. Even if it's messy, even if no one's watching, because the habit of finishing is worth more than the result itself. You're building an identity, the kind of person who doesn't leave things halfway done, the kind of person who closes the gap between I said I would and I did. You've got to treat the finish line like oxygen, like something you need to reach, no matter how you feel, because every time you finish, you sharpen your mind, you raise your standard, you set the tone for everything that comes next. The truth is, you won't always be motivated. You won't always feel strong. You won't always see progress right away. But those moments, the ones that make you want to walk away, those are the moments that matter most. That's when you dig in. That's when you remind yourself why you started. That's when you prove that you can lead yourself through fatigue, boredom, and frustration. And still deliver. That's what greatness is made of. Not bursts of inspiration, but long stretches of consistency. When you finish what you start, you build a kind of strength that never leaves you. You start trusting yourself again. You stop needing external motivation because you've seen your own power. Finishing becomes your signature, your default. The thing people can count on you for, and more importantly, the thing you can count on yourself for, because every finish tells a story. It says, I did what I said I'd do. It says, I don't fold when it's hard. It says, my word means something, and the world starts to respect that. But more importantly, you start to respect it. You can't fake that kind of pride. It's built one finish at a time, so whatever you've started, finish it. Even if you hate it right now, even if it's messy, even if no one cares, you finish for you because finishing builds discipline. Finishing builds identity. Finishing builds power. And here's the best part. Once you build that reputation with yourself, life opens up. You stop overthinking. You stop fearing new challenges. You stop wondering if you're capable, because you already know you'll finish. That's what separates the people who dream from the people who do. So from now on, make this your rule. No matter how you feel, you finish. No matter how long it takes, you finish. No matter how tired, bored, frustrated, or uninspired, you finish, because the work you complete becomes the proof you carry. And that proof becomes your power. Anyone can start. But you finish. Every time. That's how you build strength. That's how you build legacy. That's how you build a life that no emotion can derail. You start it. You stay with it. You finish it always. Epilogue. The work that builds you, you made it. You've walked through resistance, distraction, hesitation, and exhaustion, and you're still here. That matters more than you think. Because what these chapters were never about was perfection. They were about power, the kind of power that comes from consistency, honesty, and self-respect. You've learned something most people never figure out. The mind doesn't need to be convinced. It needs to be led. Every lesson in this journey has been saying the same thing in different ways. Lead your mind. Don't follow it. When your mind says wait, you move. When it says stop, you push. When it says quit, you finish. When it says rest, you question why. That's how leaders are built, not from talent or hype, but from thousands of quiet decisions made in discomfort. And now you understand something most people never will, that success is not emotional, it's mechanical. It's built by doing the work whether you like it or not, by showing up when no one's watching, by dragging your focus back again and again, even when it feels pointless. You've seen that motivation fades, but momentum doesn't. Momentum is the reward for consistency. The more you act, the more you become. The more you become, the less you depend on feelings. You've learned that your emotions aren't the problem. Your attachment to them is. The second you stop waiting to feel right before you act, everything changes. Because now, your life is built on standards, not moods. This is where real power starts, when you no longer need to be in the mood to move. When your word to yourself is stronger than any excuse your brain can build, you've faced resistance. You've walked into it. You've learned that fear doesn't vanish. It shifts. It turns into respect, into fuel, into a sign that you're doing something that matters. You've seen how comfort tries to sneak in, whispering soft lies, convincing you to rest when you haven't earned it. And now you know how to spot it, how to kill it before it steals your fire. You've trained your awareness to catch softness in thought. You've learned to interrupt it, to redirect it into action, because you understand that thinking soft leads to living small, and you were never built for small. And you've accepted one truth that most people avoid. This work never ends. Discipline isn't something you achieve once. It's something you renew daily. The battle doesn't disappear. You just get stronger at winning it. That's the point. You're not supposed to eliminate the fight. You're supposed to lead through it. Every day you wake up, the old version of you will try to pull you back. It'll tempt you with comfort, with hesitation, with fear. But now you know the pattern. You've built the reflex. You've built the muscle that moves before it doubts. You know that the hardest part isn't doing the work. It's starting when you don't want to. It's standing up the moment your mind says wait. And when you master that, everything opens up. Because now you're no longer at war with your thoughts. You're in command of them. That's what discipline really is. Self-leadership. The ability to guide yourself through resistance without waiting for the perfect moment. You've also learned that quitting is the most expensive decision you can make, because it doesn't just take away today's effort. It steals tomorrow's belief. Every time you finish, you build evidence. Every time you quit, you destroy it, and now you've built evidence. You've built proof. You've built a body of work inside your mind that says, I can trust myself. That's the foundation for everything else. Confidence, consistency, courage, they all grow from self-trust. Finishing what you start wasn't just about productivity. It was about building identity. You've learned that how you do one thing is how you do everything. The person who finishes small tasks will finish big goals. The person who follows through on promises to themselves becomes unstoppable. You've learned that you don't need perfect conditions to make progress. You just need movement. The smallest step forward always beats the perfect plan you never act on. And you've learned that discipline isn't cold or cruel. It's love in its highest form. Because discipline is doing what's right for your future, even when your present self resists it. This version of you, is built from fire. Built from the days you didn't quit. Built from the mornings you moved through the fog. Built from the hours you kept going when no one was watching. And that's the person who can handle anything. Because once you've proven to yourself that you can lead your own mind, there's nothing you can't lead. This isn't the end. It's the start of a new standard. A standard that says, I act before I feel ready. I move when my mind says stop. I lead through resistance. I finish every time. That's your code now. That's your armor. That's your edge. You don't chase motivation anymore. You create it through motion. You don't wait for clarity. You build it through action. You don't beg for energy. You generate it through movement. You've learned to lead yourself, and that's the hardest leadership there is. So remember this every time you face another wall, another fear, another moment of hesitation. You've done this before. You've walked through resistance. You've led your mind. You've finished what you started. You are not the same person who began this journey. You're sharper, stronger, clearer. You're built from action now, and from here forward, everything you touch carries that same message. You start, you stay, you finish. No matter how you feel, that's not motivation. That's identity. That's not hype. That's discipline. That's not luck. That's leadership. You've built it. You've earned it. And now you live it. Final words. The standard you live by when it's hard, you move. When it's heavy, well, you lift. When it's boring, you stay. When it hurts, you push. When it's slow, you trust. When it's dark, you keep walking. That's the code now. That's the difference between who you were and who you've become. You don't wait for strength anymore. You act your way into it. You don't wait for motivation. You create it through motion. You don't wait for the path to feel right. You walk until it becomes right. You've learned to lead yourself. You've learned that discipline is freedom and that feelings are just noise. Every moment of hesitation, every whisper of comfort, every reason to stop, they still show up. But now they don't run the show. You do. You've built a different kind of power. Quiet, certain, untouchable. The kind that doesn't need applause or proof. The kind that's forged in the moments no one sees. That's what this journey was about. Not perfection, not hype. Power through persistence. Respect through consistency. Confidence through completion. When the world gets loud, when doubt creeps in, when the old habits try to take the lead, come back here. Read these words again. Remember what you've built. Because the truth is simple. You don't rise when you feel ready. You rise when you refuse to quit. That's your identity now. That's your standard. That's your edge. You start. You stay, you finish. Every time, and that is how you win.